Oh, hey, how are you? Didn't even know you were stopping by. Ta. Nah. I'm just joshing yuns all. Just joshing yuns all. If yuns are anyone. I don't even know if anyone showed up. But because it says live right there, my internet's all jammed up. Because it says live, I think, therefore I am. No, I think someone is tuned in. Taylor Yawn is tuned in. You know how I know? Because I see your name. And that's how I know. But I'm about to record what I learned this week live on air, on the Facebook air. And my internet is choppy and not good, so we're going to kill it for a sec. In the meantime, if and when you tune in, thanks for tuning in. This is the weekly What I Learned This Week episode with yours truly, myself. We're talking books, we're talking conversations, we're talking podcasts, we're talking, I don't know what the deal here is with the, try one more time. Something went wrong. Well, that sounds about right. Jacob Roach. I don't know which one. So yeah, I guess I should get better at these introductions because the introductions to the videos are kind of just like me stumbling over my words. But what I'm about to do is I'm about to dive into this week's What I Learned episode. Can't figure out my regular Facebook page, so I can't share it. But hey, the show literally, the show must go on. Okay. Let's go for it. Let's just rock and roll. Thanks for tuning in here. Again, this is going to be uploaded. The audio is going to be uploaded to the Spaniard Show. Search Spaniard Show on iTunes. Boom, subscribe, boom. All these episodes and more are sent right to your phone, so you listen to them anytime you want. You can hit pause, rewind, fast forward, skip an episode, whatever you want. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Spaniard Show. This is probably, I'm going to say it, it's probably my favorite episode of the week, what I learned this week. And myself and Dred and a friend of mine, Eric, we were brainstorming yesterday, and we came up with some pretty cool ideas on how to build off of this what I learned this week concept. Now, why should you care what I learned this week? Well, I hope my mission is to convince, brainwash you into becoming a lifelong learner, such that on Friday evening, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoons, you can sit down with those people closest to you in your life and say, hey, you know what I learned this week? And then you can talk and you can have an intelligent, well-founded conversation. And it's going to make you feel good. It's going to make them feel good. And here's a little something that I want to throw out there. You know the idea of inflation? You know, if you make X this year and you make X next year, you're actually making less next year than you made this year because of inflation. Well, I kind of liken that to learning, okay? So you have X, let's call it overall knowledge and intelligence. Let's call it that. You have X overall knowledge and intelligence this year. So next year, if you don't learn anymore, if you don't actively pursue lifelong learning, guess what? You ain't smarter next year. You're actually a little bit, I'm going to say it, dumber. You're actually a little bit dumber. So it's important. We've got to keep up with the times. We've got to keep up with life. We've got to keep up with all these new aspects in our lives and commit yourself to learning. Look, I put out AM Excellence Monday through Friday religiously. Boom, it's there for you, 8 minutes. I put out an interview every Thursday. Boom, hour-long interview with some freaking incredible people. I put out What I Learned This Week episodes. Boom. I put out AMX Kids episode on Tuesdays, which is AM Excellence, except for kids. Teaching character skills and leaderships to young people by way of books. Why books? Because I freaking love them. because books are my way to spend, sorry, I just envision you saying, shut up and start the show. Because books are my way of surrounding myself with the best on a daily basis. I don't gotta depend on anybody else. I just gotta depend on Amazon delivering my book before this one runs out. Or actually, I can just reach to my side and grab one of the many books sitting there. Boom. It's like magic. That's all you got to depend on. That's the controllable, right? That's the controllable that I'm trying to get you to bring into your life. So this week's, I'm out of breath. Is it time to hang up yet? This week's What I Learned episode, we cap off the book Awakening Spirits by Tom Brown Jr. We dive into an incredible episode that I'm talking about with my friend and mentor, Kyle Kingsbury, former UFC fighter, absolutely intelligent, truly an inspiration and resource to me in my life. And we're going to talk some AMX kids, and I'm going to let you know what's coming up next on the show. So let's dive into the first bullet point, a reminder. You can get this. I'm going to say it in case you want to do it. Not many people do it, but it is it's such a valuable resource. I can't fully articulate why, other than if you're driven and ambitious, goal-oriented, kind of mediocrity makes you sick in your belly, then you will want to get this document emailed to you every Friday, the What I Learned This Week document. The episode is basically an audio version of that document that I create, and I email it to you as a PDF. So you could, on your Sunday conversation, when you sit down and talk with your cronies about what you learned this week, you could say, I learned this by way of the Spaniard. Or you could even claim it as your own, because it ain't mine, it came from a book. So you can say, well, I don't want you to lie, but you can say, hey, did you know in the book Awakening Spirits by Tom Brown Jr., et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's like magic. And it's going to improve your life, their lives. It's going to, okay, I'm just rambling. Let's get to this week's What I Learned document. The first excerpt, the first quote, the first thought that I want you to think about from Awakening Spirits by Tom Brown Jr. Now, remember, this book is about survival, awareness in nature, connection to the earth, but it also it relies heavily on Native American wisdom, because our author, Tom Brown Jr., learned from grandfathers who was a Native American, Stalking Wolf, who was a Native American, and he's sharing this all with us in this book. So it's very, very spiritual. It's been very eye-opening for me. I'm on this Native American wisdom of Native American spiritual interest, and it was incredibly enlightening in that way. But one of the things the author says is this: fatigue only produced in obscurity. So it was important for grandfather to know when he had reached his limits mentally and emotionally. So at this point in the book, we're talking about grandfather. Grandfather is finding his way. He's on a vision quest. And Tom Brown is saying that fatigue only produced in obscurity. So grandfather had to recognize when he was fatigued. And I was thinking about this morning. So I did Death by Treadmill this morning. It's a Friday morning, generally every Friday. I do Death by Treadmill unless I'm traveling or something. And I had amped up Death by Treadmill to 0.5 miles per hour for the last several months. But what I realized over time is that, wow, I'm tired. I'm fatigued. And not just like I want to explain fatigue, right? There's surface level fatigue. So if you're running, if you're exercising, if you're training, you can't get that last rep. That's like surface level fatigue. But then there's a deeper fatigue. And this is the fatigue that I want to bring out here, the difference. There's a fatigue like, no, my soul is tired. Like my car. It's not that your car is out of gas. It's like the wheels are falling off of my car. So what I've begun to realize and think is like, wait, I got to experiment here. I got to experiment with rest. I've got to experiment with intensity of training and frequency of that intensity of training until you come to a perfect mix that is you, right? That is your perfect mix. I battle with go, Spanny. Don't be a wuss. Do it. Dave Burke would do it. Jocko Willink would do it. You got to do it, wuss. Get out of bed. I battle with that on a daily basis. But I'm realizing, you know what? I'm me. I take reference from all these people, but at the end of the day, I'm me. And I've got to do what produces the best Spaniard in all areas, right? Husband, father, speaker, podcast producer, friend tour. Maybe I'm a friend tour to somebody. But it's that idea that you've got to recognize when you're fatigued. Are you on the surface? Like, are you just out of gas? Or the wheels truly going to fall off of your car? You can only learn that through experience. And you might be wrong for a while. But at the end of the day, you'll gain the awareness, right? This book's talking about awareness. You'll gain the awareness to be able to differentiate. And I've been able to differentiate. It's all just a work in progress, folks. That's it. Moving on to the next bullet point. So if you were if you were tuned in at the beginning, I guess if you're listening to the podcast, you are live streamers. So I presented this idea of inflation, right? And that if you make the same amount of money this year as last year, you're actually making less money because of inflation, etc. So if you're not committing yourself to lifelong learning, right? If you only know as much this year as you knew last year, guess what? You ain't as smart. You're losing progress. You're falling behind the 8 ball. We don't want to do that. So the next bullet point deals with this idea of learning. Grandfather presents man as an island made up of concentric circles, each one a level of potential. He calls the ego, the I, or the self the most primitive level, a prison in which we are held captive by doubt, fear, and limitations. So if you're out there operating in level 1, right, you're just going on, you're doing your thing, you're going to work. If you got my email today, you resonate with what I'm talking about with Sunday mornings or Sunday evenings, fretting Monday morning, and then Friday afternoon, thanking the good Lord above that it's Friday afternoon and the freaking weekend's here. You know what I'm talking about, right? But it's this idea of this lifelong learning. Which circle of knowledge, which circle of potential are you operating in? And whether you love your job or you hate your job, guess what? You can always work on yourself. What does that mean, working on yourself? That means reading. That means listening. That means maybe journaling. That means articulating your thought. That means formulating high-level, thought-provoking conversations with your circle, the people in your circle of life. That's what it means, working on yourself. What's working on yourself means? I feel like garbage. Well, how can I not feel like garbage? Maybe I could eat better. Well, what does that mean? Well, then you dive into eating. Maybe I could train better. What does that mean? Then you dive into training. Maybe I could read a book and think and stretch my mind. What does that mean? Well, maybe I'll go to charliespinner.com/reading list and pick out a good book. This is all working on yourself, right? If we go back to not being able to control E plus R equals O from Jack Canfield, event equals response plus opportunity, event plus response equals opportunity, your outcome. There you have it. You can't control it, your environment, but you can control your response to your environment. And then that outcome is going to be determined by your response. So you can always, always work on yourself. You can always get outside of that prison of fear, doubt, and limitations. I'm a walking, talking example of that. I was explaining to someone earlier, I did a podcast interview. I'm like a tough guy who's scared of everything. You know, like on the surface. On the surface, I got in a ring and I fought big, scary guys, and I believed it. I love the fight. I love everything about it. But I also hate everything about it. I'm like a squirrely little wimp who's afraid of everything. But I fight daily to get outside of that ego, that I, and that self, the most primitive level, to get outside of those doubt, fears, and limitations. So in which level do you exist? And if you're in a level you don't want to be in, guess what? Start freaking learning. Moving on. Speaking of learning, in a much softer tone, AMX Kids. AM Excellence is my baby. AM Excellence is my baby. AMX, it was this thing that, by way of a lot of people at the beginning, we created this idea, this name, AM Excellence. The initial point of it, the punto, was to start your day off on the right foot. That's what it was about, starting your day off on the right foot. But it has since evolved into this idea that if you AMX something, you simply read it, watch it, listen to it, and then you extract the learning principles. And then maybe you teach it. That's like an extra level of AMXing it. So that's all AMX means. So AMX is about learning and teaching. So AMX Kids is about learning and teaching kids. Think back to when you were in middle school. Oh my gosh. Think back to middle school. What was your middle school experience like for you? Remember the first time you heard new words and saw new things and experienced new things, and you're like, oh my good golly, what is going on? What is this? It's like, this is life, kid. Well, my purpose for creating AMX Kids is because when I reflect on that time, and I was blessed because I had a great family, great support system, and a great group of friends, but still, it was freaking difficult. So the reason I created AMX Kids is multi-purpose. One, because I love reading so freaking much, and I believe that it can enhance and improve anybody's life, anyone who commits to doing it. So now I'm taking AMX, that idea of learning and teaching, and I'm youngening, is that a word? I'm youngening it to middle school. So I'm studying, I'm reading, I'm extracting life lessons from middle school age books. The book I'm currently reading is The Breadwinner by Deborah Ellis. It talks about a girl from Afghanistan who is has a new reality in life because of the Taliban. And it's an award-winning book. It's part of a series. It's full of life lessons, and that's what AMX Kids is about, teaching those life lessons, those character skills to deal with what life's throwing your way. And if you're a grown-up, or I'm not, well, I guess technically I'm a grown-up, but if you have a young person in your life that you think I'd like for them to hear a positive message regarding lifelong learning and regarding developing character skills, have them listen to AMX Kids. Subscribe to the podcast. Get on iTunes. Search out Spaniard. Subscribe to it. Every Tuesday it's coming out. It's meant to be used as a learning tool, a conversation piece. It's meant to serve for a teacher or a coach to use these episodes to listen to them in a room with a group of kids and then facilitate discussion. Because when you facilitate discussion, you're going to learn about these people. It's what I do with adults. It's what I do with businesses. You learn about them. And when you learn about them, you can relate to them better. That's the whole basis of all of this. Communication. AMX Kids. This week's topic of discussion, action points. Right? So there's action points. It's a freaking lesson plan. That's what I do. I'm a teacher. So instead, I actually am. No kids are watching when I record, but I talk as if they are. Action points are the importance of teamwork, the importance of action and movement in overcoming difficulties, and lastly, defining your role in your family, school, and friends. So how's that for some freaking conversation to start with the young people in your lives? Moving on, expectations. So I laugh when I think about this. I've done a much better job of expecting less or not formulating expectations and rather letting things happen. And a buddy of mine, so I want to start off this bullet point with this premise. So a while ago, a year and a half or 2 years ago, I went on a trip, right? And it was a trip to see a very important person, a person who, has the potential to change my life if this person, chose to. And I was talking to my buddy. And I was talking to my buddy and saying, what if, yeah, and this could happen, My buddy was like, Charlie, you haven't even gone yet. Why don't you just settle your expectations, my friend, and go and see what's there? So when you set these expectations, it's essentially you channel your mind into a way of thinking. And you might miss things that are along the way. Just the other day, I was driving down the road. To just, I don't know where I was going, but just a small road in my town. And then this stuff, what I'm reading, what I'm learning, what I'm contemplating, popped into my head. And I thought, wait a minute. Right now, all I see is the road, and I have my thoughts in my head. And they're going 1,000,000 miles per hour. I'm going 25 miles per hour because cops are everywhere on this road. I thought, slow down. Hit pause. And I essentially stopped thinking and opened my eyes. My eyes were already open, but you know what I mean. I opened my eyes. And all of a sudden, I saw the graveyard that was beside me. I saw the buildings to my right and left. I saw cars pass. It just opened up, right? So that idea with expectations is that when you're so focused and so channeled and so pre-thought out, you're closing your eyes, literally or figuratively, to other things that can come your way. So in the book, Tom Brown Jr. says this: I should go to it without expectations of any kind and remain open to the many little things that will come my way. So whatever expectations you're setting out there, set them right over there. Put them with baby in the corner. Pick them up on Monday morning. But for now, this weekend, we're going without expectations. I don't think I have it written. I want to make sure I don't have it written here. But one of my favorite things that I took from the book Awakening Spirits is this: don't try too hard, because when you try too hard, the results aren't good, right? So don't have expectations. Just do your best, work hard, read books, be nice, and then boom, be the recipient of what comes your way. And then let's go back to the E plus R equals O, event plus response equals outcome. And then let's make the right choices, the right responses. Moving on. How many of you, let me see a show of hands if you're watching on Facebook Live right now. How many of you appreciate peace of mind? Do you ever do something? It could be something so simple as the dishes. Could be building something. If you've ever been something as big as like a house or a room or remodel, of course that. Maybe it's a workout. That's what gives me this feeling. Waking up early and getting reading and then doing a workout. And then everything's in place. Everything's in order. Everything's good. Right? How many of us love that feeling? If you're not raising your hand, let's talk off air. I don't know what to say. But we love that feeling, right? So there was a part in the book, Awakening Spirits, where they say this, quote, as you practice day in and day out, you will find that you begin to carry the sense of great peace and relaxation with you for longer and longer periods of time. So that's it. As you practice day in and day out, you'll find that you begin to carry the sense of great peace and relaxation with you for longer and longer periods of time. Remember a million times, whatever book, I think it was an Napoleon Hill book, I first heard it was nature doesn't favor something for nothing. Nature doesn't favor something for nothing. Karma, putting good things out there, good things will come your way. This idea of giving to get, I hear it and I read it in many, many books and conversations. It's that deal. You want that peace. You want that satisfaction, that sense of achievement, that internal or that intrinsic good stuff going on. You got to work for it. And what Tom Brown Jr. is saying here is as you practice day in and day out, as you practice. What does that mean, practice? Maybe that means your relationship with your spouse. Maybe that means your relationship with your kids. Maybe that means me as a podcaster reading and studying and taking these. Look, I'm showing Facebook Live. This is what my desk looks like. Right? There's 3 notebooks and 2 books. That's it. So whenever the mic goes on, I carry a sense of peace and relaxation because I know I'm ready. So whatever your pursuit is, whatever that thing is, you got to live it. You got to live it. It's not about, I think of this with myself. It's not about reading a book in Spanish at 9 or 8 o'clock at night with my daughter. It's not just, it's about integrating the Spanish language into her life. That's when it becomes real. That's when it becomes integrated. That's when it becomes a part of her soul, right? A part of her. That's how you do it. So whatever it is that you're searching, trying, whatevering, integrate it into your life. Practice day in and day out, and that peace will come. Thursday's episode, bridged topics that I've never talked about on air. I've never really thought about in depth, except for the last several months, reading, learning, listening from really smart people. And I was a little bit hesitant to talk about this stuff on air because it's new, it's different, it's not the norm. But my friend and mentor, Kyle Kingsbury, who was a former UFC fighter, he currently now works at Onnit as the director of Total Human Optimization. He's an incredibly smart person. And I started hearing this term, plant medicine, and thought, what is plant medicine? And I'm not going to explain it much further because if it piques your interest, you'll listen. And this is episode number 189, or you'll Google it. And I don't know what you're going to think. I don't know what you're going to feel. But Kyle and I cover his life, which is an incredible life, incredible story. He hosts the Human Optimization Hour with Kyle Kingsbury. It's the former Onnit podcast. I encourage you all to listen to that, right? Listen to him. Just an incredible person and incredibly smart and well-spoken and fun. But he says, quote, the one thing that has taught me the most in life, without question, is plant medicines. In the right context, done appropriately, with respect and reverence, and with intention. It's a very, very, very powerful episode, powerful concept. You might say, this is for the birds, but I love learning. I love listening. And when you hear someone well-spoken, well-researched, well-experienced, you can't not appreciate it. And that's exactly what Kyle is. And I appreciate the role he plays in my life because he is something special. So again, that is episode number 189 on this week's podcast. So the last thing I want to talk about, fight or flight. That's like the most basic instinct. Brought me back to basic instinct with I want to say Kim Basinger. It's not Kim Basinger. Sharon Stone. But it's the most basic instinct that there is, fight or flight. And I again, this is a concept that I think I most recently read it in Bear Grylls' book, A Survival Guide for Life, prior to reading it now. But it deals with instinct and survival. And this book, Bear's book is called A Survival Guide for Life. This book by Tom Brown Jr. talks about wilderness survival and awareness. And he says this, the Creator gave instinct to every living creature, including man. So let's go back to one of the first points when I'm talking about the prison that is I, ego, self, the most primitive level on which we live, where we're held captive by doubt, fear, and limitations. Okay, doubt, fear, and limitations. How often have you felt your own worst enemy? You're like, come on, Charlie. Oh, Charlie, you're probably going to mess this up because you mess everything up. I don't know how many times I told myself that competing growing up. Well, you're just Charlie. You're just from a small town, you're just from Hollidaysburg. Yeah, this guy's from wherever. You're probably that's it, right? That's the voice that we all hear often. But then think of this. The Creator gave instinct to every living creature, including man. Your brain, right? This is like science. This is about as sciencey as I get. Your brain is wired to help you. Your brain is wired to help you survive, to help you thrive. It likes habit. It likes routine. It wants to survive. It has instincts, right? And Tom Brown Jr. is saying the Creator gave instinct to every living creature, including man. Fight or flight. It doesn't say, I'm thinking, I'm on off the cuff here, but it's not fight or flight or negatively ruin your chances of success. No, it's fight or flight. Which one are you going to pick? Whichever one's going to help you survive. That's the one. That's what you're, boom, drawn to. Am I going to stand here and fight, or am I going to run and survive? Either way, it's about survival. And I want you to, instead of thinking of yourself as your own worst enemy, maybe we can start thinking of ourselves as our own best friend, right? Because we're born with this idea of survival, with this instinct. Instinct is there to help you. Bear Grylls talks about, Bear Grylls is like a freaking survival expert. It's there to help you. You're born with it. Listen to it. Your gut, your intuition, backed by hard work. Trust me, gut intuition. The way I operate is my gut intuition backed by an insane amount of hard work and focus and discipline and dedication, all that stuff. That's what I'm following. Whew, I'm sweating. I got to do something about my basement office because I'm sweating. It's humid. It's humid. So I am going to give Dread props. So Dread creates, on average, 5 to 6 jokes. I almost said funny. No, not funny. 5 to 6 jokes a week. Little funny stuff. Mostly not funny. But some of them are gold. And it's for that. That sums up what he and I are building right now. Most of the stuff we build and create, crash and burn. But every couple whatevers, we have a successful one. So Dredd sent me one of his successful jokes that he said something about he was editing the podcast or posting the podcast, and he said his air conditioning went out, and he said, talk about total humid optimization. Get it? Because the AC was out and it was humid, and he said, talk about total humid optimization. And it was Kyle's podcast. So that was great. Dredd, 2 thumbs up to you, my friend. Listeners, as always, thanks for everything. Like I said, I don't know if anyone's listening out there, but I love this stuff. And just having the ability to stream live on Facebook, facebook.com/Charlie Spaniard, the ability to post it on my podcast, The Spaniard Show, it makes me think that you're listening. And for that, I'm going to try my dangest to entertain, inform, inspire, and make you giggle, make you chuckle. I love you all. Be bold. See ya. Truly makes me happy. Truly, truly, truly makes me happy. Oh boy. Hey Michael, what's up, buddy? Yeah, so thank you all for tuning in. And I will actually be recording another episode here this afternoon. AMX Kids for next week. Recording ahead. So anyhow, thank you for all your support. Consider sharing the video, commenting, feedbacking, etc. And please subscribe. You know, if you enjoy this, if you enjoy the flow of this, the content of this, hop on iTunes. Hop on iTunes and click subscribe. It'll help this show get seen by more and more people. It'll help me improve the basement office situation. See ya.